All right. Welcome to my Mescaline trip report, or San Pedro. Um, for those of you who may have be watching this for the first time, my name's Zach. I'm Canadian who's currently living in Australia, and I'm making videos basically just about personal growth and finding your true self and reaching your full potential, and just about meditation, mindfulness, spirituality, and all of these things. And I recently decided that I'm going to start sharing my experiences with psychedelics. And the reason for that is that I've found them to be one of the most significant, important tools in my own personal growth. So 2 weeks ago, I tried mescaline in a ceremony, a San Pedro ceremony in Perth, Australia. It was not done by an Indigenous person, but it was done by someone who had a lot of experience running these ceremonies, and someone who's very connected to the cacti, to the San Pedro. He, in terms of growing them and just his experience with them. And so there was 7 of us there, and I had heard about this through a yoga friend. And before this experience, I had only ever tried psilocybin, or otherwise known as magic mushrooms. And so I really didn't know what to expect going into this. In fact, I hadn't even really heard of it. I'd sort of heard of peyote before, but I hadn't really heard about what this type of experience is. And it was only about 2 weeks before the ceremony that I had even heard about it. And so I did a little bit of research in that time, and some people had told me that it was a little bit similar to MDMA, but I haven't really had an experience on that. Or they said it was like a mix between MDMA and mushrooms, but like a much more clear experience. So, and to be honest, I haven't done MDMA, but that sounds fairly accurate, based on what I've heard about MDMA. So yeah, let's get to it. The experience was absolutely profound. It was truly like a magical night. It's just the best way I can describe it. And hopefully I can get some of that across in this story, some of that magic across. So for those that don't know, a mescaline trip lasts quite a while. I've heard anywhere from like 8 to like 16 hours, depending on your dose. And unfortunately for any psychonauts out there, I don't actually know the exact dose I had, but I do know it was a very large dose. I had to keep going back for more because I didn't feel it working, but sure enough, eventually it did. So yeah, it was it's a long trip, and essentially we met at 4 p.m. on a Saturday, and the plan was just to spend the entire night there. So we were told just to bring whatever we need to sleep, or not to sleep, but whatever we need to like be comfortable for an evening, because there's definitely no sleeping, that's for sure. But lots of laying down and just journeying. So yeah, showed up 4 p.m. There were 7 other people there. No one there I had met before. Nor had I met the guide and his girlfriend, who were going to be running the ceremony for us. And so the the cool thing is, though, it was located at a yoga studio that I had actually been frequenting quite a lot. And so it was really cool to connect with that space in a different way, since I had been there so much and been there for, lots of meditation and yoga. I felt very connected to that space. It was, anytime I walk in there, it's such a beautiful space, and anytime I walk in there, I always felt really calm and kind of at home. And so anyways, the ceremony starts, and first he gives us this stuff called hape, or rape, it's also known as, which is essentially like a tobacco, highly concentrated tobacco snuff, and plant mixture, it's a powder, and we literally got it blown up our nose. And the purpose of that, we were told, is to essentially cleanse any bad spirits within you, and kind of ground you. And it definitely did that. It was wild. I did not know I had no idea that this was going to be part of it. And he kind of went around in a circle and started, I think 3 people away from me. And he warned before. He said, first, this is optional. You don't need it if you don't want it. And that there may be some purging involved. So essentially throwing up, getting rid of that bad energy is what the guide was telling us. And so first person had a violent reaction. It sounded like they could hardly breathe, and it was just they were throwing up. We all had these buckets because it was expected that at some point during this ceremony we were gonna purge. It just looked like a bad time, so I was pretty nervous for that. And at first I felt like I was handling it pretty good. It was totally just this mind expansion. I don't know if any of you guys have smoked cigarettes, but it is that similar sensation, but times 1,000, that kind of head rush. And if you close your eyes, it's like a just expansion is the best way I can describe it. And yeah, I basically just started, I just slouched down and just started hugging my bucket. And it was just spitting in it, and it was pretty extreme. I probably would do it again for these purposes, but it's not something I'd ever want to do recreationally. It's quite intense. And so that was how it started. And I literally ended up just curling up in a ball, kind of immobile, in the fetal position for the first 45 minutes at least. So that he basically said, when you're ready, then I'll give you the actual medicine, the San Pedro medicine, which was in this kind of little green smoothie mixture, which we were meant to drink afterwards. And so for the first 45 minutes, I was honestly thinking that there was some fairly high chance that I wasn't even going to recover enough to be able to drink the San Pedro. That's just how intense it was. So finally, I kind of got my wits back to me. It basically just is a dizzying experience, and you feel it dripping down your throat because you get throat up your nose, and you just feel like you need to vomit it out. And another thing I forgot to mention, I fasted for 3 days before this ceremony. We were told to fast for about 2 days, given the purging. And so yeah, after that, I finally got up, managed to kind of sit somewhat still enough where I was like, okay, I can manage this. But it took all my will to drink this cup. And it didn't help that the cup didn't taste so good. It was not the greatest taste, that's for sure. But it could have been worse. I find magic mushrooms much worse. Those make me gag really bad. This, as long as I did it in a few big swigs and followed it with water, it wasn't so bad. And so he said that essentially every hour, he'll ask if we want another cup, and then he said after another hour I'll ask for another cup, and basically said, after about 4, you probably don't need any more. And so anyways, we drink the first cup, and I'm still feeling the hape stuff. I'm just feeling a bit nauseous. Yeah, but I'm also feeling excited for what's to come. Another thing I forgot to talk about was, for these types of things, when you're going to do these psychedelic ceremonies for personal and spiritual growth, you got to go in with an intention. And sometimes I think maybe that intention could literally just be, show me what I need to see kind of thing. And for me, going into it, kind of the week leading up, I really had no idea what my intention was going to be. I was kind of in the mindset, I'll get shown what I need to see kind of thing. And I just didn't have much time to think about it, to be honest. I had just taught my first meditation class at that studio prior, a few days before, and so I had that on my mind the whole time. It was only 2 days before the ceremony, and so I didn't really have time to sit down and think about what my intention was going to be, but I just kind of had faith that it would present itself. And just before the ceremony started, when we were sitting down meditating, I realized that I wanted my intention to be, it kind of just came up to be about playfulness, to embrace playfulness more. And so anyways, back to the ceremony, I took the first drink. After an hour, nothing. Felt more nauseous. The drink made me feel more sick. I pretty much just laid down, felt uncomfortable. Just kind of tried to sit with the feeling, with the sensations. So in a way, I was, I guess, connecting more with my present experience, connecting more with my body, but no pleasant sensations at this time. And he asked if anyone wants another drink, and I sat up right away. I'm like, yep, me, because I'm not feeling anything. And one other person asked for another drink, at least as far as I could tell. And so I drank that. Another hour, pretty much the same thing. I'm just sitting there, laying down mostly, actually, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit nauseous. I've now thrown up 3 times. First time from the hape, and 2 times, about half hour, 40 minutes after the drink. And 3 hours in, he asks, does anyone want another drink? And so, of course, since I'm not feeling anything, and at this point, some other people are feeling things, by the way, at least based off their behavior. People are or at least one person was laughing, and definitely seemed to be experiencing something. And I assumed other people were, because they weren't asking for another drink. They hadn't even asked for the second one, most of them. And so I'm a little bit confused, 2 drinks, 3 hours in, nothing. So I say, yes, I will have a third drink. And I kind of ask him, I'm like, am I supposed to be feeling something? And he said, like, yeah, it probably should be kicking in. It's more, he said, it's not like very psychedelic. It's more like heart opening, things like that. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I know, I'm that's kind of what I was expecting, what I had heard. It was not quite as psychedelic as mushrooms. And so, yeah, I was just feeling a little bit disappointed at this point. But literally, I just needed to be more patient, because within... Oh, sorry. Ooh. There are some large bull ants around here. And so about 5 minutes after that third drink, I finally start feeling something. Not significant, but just very, very loving sensation in my chest, kind of like an opening up, just like what he kind of described, like a heart opening experience. But it's just very mild. And essentially that just progressively grew more and more. About 45 minutes or half hour after that third drink, I'm having a good time. I'm really just very happy, very, like, joyful. I'm sitting up at this point, for the first basically 3 hours. I'm like in the fetal position, kind of nauseous and not feeling well. But not long after that third one, I threw up again, and after that felt really good. And I was sitting up, I was, just moving my body, just feeling really good, grinning ear to ear, but still very mild, like, not super intense like I was expecting. And so he asks if anyone wants a fourth one. And I don't even think anyone asked anyone else accepted a third one. Maybe one other person asked for one, but I think it was probably their second. And so I'm like, I literally was just like, should I? Because it wasn't super intense. And he didn't answer. He just poured it and brought it over to me. And so I drank that. And then he also gave us this powder, which I hadn't even really known what it was, but I found out later the powder was actually peyote powder. So essentially just more mescaline. And he'd given some on my third one and that. So I now had 4 of these cups plus 2 of these spoonfuls of powder. So I had a lot. At this point, I just needed to be patient. But it was, starting to come up about 4 hours in. And yeah, so into the experience itself, about 4 to 5 hours in, when I'm really starting to feel it, my intention came up. And, well, not even necessarily, like, I totally forgot that I had set the intention for playfulness. Like, when I just got wrecked by that happy stuff, all of that shit was out of my mind. But kind of, I just had this, like super profound moment, where I'm like, I need to write this down. Like, the words "more play" were just, like, flowing out of me, like, more play. It was just like, holy shit, this is profound. And so, like, I sat up, wrote it in my notebook, just more play. Like, I wish I brought it with me. I actually planned to, but maybe I'll put a picture up. In capital letters, exclamation marks, underlined like 6 times. It was like the most important words I had ever written down. Yeah, so this was kind of consistent with this whole trip, was that there's a lot of profundity, just like, holy smokes, this is profound. You know, this is what I need to fix my life, or, you know, not that anything's broken, but like, this is what I need. And so the more play thing, though, will come back in an interesting way later in the story. So after that, it was basically like kind of these waves. And not so much, if anyone watching this has tried psilocybin, they would know that it comes in these like super extreme waves. Like, it's like, and it's like, boom, you're in it. You get deeper and deeper and deeper, higher and higher and higher. And then it kind of comes down, and then it goes back up. But this one was like, and those are kind of short time period waves. At least they feel like it. But this was much more gradual, not these super intense highs, but there was definitely kind of a wave pattern to it. And what I was finding was that there was periods where I was essentially giving myself love, you know, like, first of all, the whole experience was mostly just this essence of love, like this truly heart-opening sensation in the chest. Just feeling like you love everything, like unconditional kind of thing. But I was noticing these waves where there was periods where, you know, I needed to love myself. It was like I truly felt like I needed to give myself some love, and I would do that by like cuddling things, like most of this experience I was laying down, eyes closed. But I was, you know, cuddling my blanket and the bolster and pillow, and like I found myself moving into strange body positions. Like, it felt like I just needed to express my body in certain ways, like just strange positions, laying down on my stomach and arms out, and it just felt so comfortable, and like just the way I needed to be in those moments to give myself love. And then after those periods when I like gave myself enough love, I had felt like I had all of this love to give. And I really truly had this sensation that I could just radiate love, like just like explode love out me. I had this one thought that like we are all just love beams. Like, that was what I wrote in my notebooks. We're all just beams of love. And I just truly imagined that like there was like essentially a spherical beam in my chest that was just emanating love outwards. And I even had this thought during it that I was ended up being like in the middle of the room, almost like pretty much as middle as I could have been, compared to anyone else. There's like one person to my left and a couple people behind me, and then 3 people over to my right, and then the guides in front of me. And for some reason I felt this responsibility, you know, like, because I'm in the center, I just need to radiate love outwards so that everyone else can feel this energy. And, you know, to be honest, a year or 2 ago, I wouldn't, you know, people would talk about energy and how you can connect and see people's energies and feel their energies and things like that. I used to not believe in that kind of stuff. And even definitely more so in the last year, since I had been really going deep into meditation, and especially at when I spent 2 months in India, I definitely had many experiences where I felt like I could truly feel energy, or like feel my energy radiating out, and things like that. But this experience was like that tenfold, 100-fold. Like, I felt like I could focus my attention and feel other people's energies around the room, and kind of get an idea on what their essence is like, and couldn't have words for it, but that's how I felt. And so anyways, I was just I felt like I had to just radiate this love. And some other really interesting things that came up. Most of these experiences are meant to bring up, they're essentially meant to cure your trauma, essentially allow you to heal. And when I say trauma, like, I've never had any severe trauma. I'm just gonna turn the sun's setting pretty low. Hopefully I have enough light here, but I plan on just likely releasing the audio of this only because it's going to be pretty long, and then probably still the video, but I doubt anyone's going to watch this far anyways. So anyways, yeah, I've had a pretty good life. Very caring, loving parents. No extreme traumatic events that I could think of in my past. But having said that, everyone has I believe everyone has like micro traumas that essentially form who they are. That have formed their negative tendencies. These micro traumas are preventing people from being happy and being themselves, in the form of just these reaction patterns and things like that. That's something I could talk more about in other videos. It's not really significant other than just take my word for it. We all have these traumas that don't allow us to be who we really want to be. And for me, I discovered in this experience and that I hadn't really, as a child, gotten enough like intimate love from my father. And I should say that like he's a great dad and he had done so many amazing things for me and shows his love in many other ways, like kind of acts of service kind of ways. But me personally, I think I needed more like intimate, words of affirmation kind of love and like physical love, and just more emotional connection. And I think my dad, like many men in his generation, were kind of essentially, I was going to say trained, but just raised to kind of put those things down. And so I never really got that. And I found that kind of come up in the ceremony where I felt like I was this like little 6-year-old Zach who just needed love. And there was a couple times where I just asked our guide for a hug. And they said before, like, if you guys need anything, just let us know, like a physical touch, like just our presence, whatever. Just let us know. We're here for you. We're here for that. And so I had this idea. I'm like, I think I just need a hug. And I ended up just hugging him for like 30 seconds. It was so special. And I really felt like that was, it was healing me. Like it was like I was this 6-year-old Zach who just needed this love, just this connection, with like male energy kind of thing, like the fact that he was like this jolly man with a big beard, I think just really helped. It was everything I needed. I just felt like I really got, the sun's down. I can take these off. Hopefully the video's not too dark, but at least I can actually see you guys now. Yeah, it was very, just profoundly healing, is the best way I can put it. I really discovered that I just need to give myself more love. just love yourself more. Like, I feel since then I've felt I can really recognize more when I need that kind of love. And sometimes it is just I need to just cuddle my pillow, you know? I don't have a partner or anything, so like I can't enlist them to give me love, but you can give yourself so much love by just, listening to your body and just like doing what you feel like you need for yourself, Fill your own cup so that your cup just spills out to everyone else. Fill yourself with love so that you can radiate love outwards. And that was what I noticed, I had to fill my own cup, those cycles. It was just filling my own cup, loving myself, and that allowed me to just radiate love, I don't know if anyone else was really feeling it, but I felt like I was just like sending love beams to everyone. Yeah. So things kind of got interesting later on. We're in this kind of somewhat close to a residential area, and it's just this little business strip, but there's people living directly above us, where we were, and it was a Saturday night, and the people right above us were having a huge party. And they'd actually had occurred earlier in the night. I have no idea. I wasn't really tracking time, but if I were to guess, it would have been 9-ish, just kind of on the come up. About 5 hours in, and there was some noise, and I remember just thinking at that point it was kind of comical, they were playing like party music, and we're in here all like curled up in our blankets, with this super peaceful, calm music. The duality of the situation was rather interesting to me. Yeah, but then so they left, and I think they had just probably went out for drinks, but around 2 or 1 a.m. or 2, many hours later, kind of after I would say what was my peak, I probably peaked around 11 midnight-ish, but I was still feeling it a lot. And around 1 to 2, they came back in full force. Like, there must have been 30 plus people up there, blasting their music. And again, I was just loving it. I was loving everything, right? And so, to be honest, I have a feeling most other people on the drug were probably loving it too, or able to integrate it in their own way, right? But our guide was feeling a little bit uneasy about it, both of them, because they're really trying to create this special, calming, beautiful space for everyone, and it's easy to see how they would feel that this disturbance, distraction, is potentially ruining that for other people. But I was just like kind of living in the dualities, and kind of dancing to the beat. I did lots of like spinal movements and kind of just moving my body while I was sitting throughout the ceremony. That was one of my self-love things. And so it ended up just kind of changing the whole vibe. Our guide and one of the other people in the ceremony went up there, and they were gone for like 45 minutes, I think, trying to talk them out of it, or to just be quiet or shut down the party or something. They had told him we were having a meditation retreat. Obviously they couldn't really give the full story. And no luck. Party kept going. And so they came back down. And at this point, everyone was kind of in their own solo journey, but now it's more of a like shared journey. Everyone's kind of dealing with we're all in the same environment now. We have the same input, and so we're all kind of like laughing about it, everyone's kind of making the little jokes here and there. We're just trying to like laugh it off. And I think our guide, he said he had just like a moment of true acceptance, where he was able to let go of his expectations, and really embrace the situation, because you simply can't control what's going to happen. And when he said when he was able to accept that, it was just like this powerful kind of opening, loving feeling. And so anyways, we're all kind of in the same experience together, and I'm just like dancing, and I'm thinking too at this point that I had said, and this is where what I wrote in my journal comes up again, I had said more play. More play. And so I'm just dancing to their beat, not our music, like to their party music, and like tapping to the beat and whatnot. And at one point, our guide asked, like, do you guys just want to turn this into like a cacao ecstatic dance? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, I'm already pretty much dancing, and everyone else seemed on board. And I had then told him how I had written down more play. Like, this is like, it truly felt like a premonition, like I needed to embrace this moment. I said more play, so I'm gonna play. And it was just, so just we eventually started dancing, and mostly only me and our guides, but other people were there in spirit. I could feel it, and some just dancing while sitting down, and but it was just so powerful. Like, I'd literally just been reading that week too about how, like, how do you integrate these profound experiences more into your life. And one of the things that came up was, do things with your body, like literally just try and express what you learned with your body. So like that was literally what I was doing immediately after. I was just free, like so free. I'd never danced so free in my life. And even like dancing like that, like ecstatic dance of just letting loose, doing whatever you want to do, that's something that's like really new to me. Literally only in like the first time I really ever did it without alcohol was less than a year ago at my yoga teacher training, and it was like the opening ceremony. That's what we did, and it was like, that was a profound moment of just really letting loose. And then I did it a couple times in that, and then I went to one ecstatic dance about 9 days before this ceremony, and so I'd only done this a few times, but like this moment, this was like just so profound. I just felt like this was what I needed. I said more play, and now I'm just playing. I'm just expressing myself. And what's come from that is I now know that this is something I need to do, like all the time, like pretty much every day. Maybe I missed a day, I can't remember now, but I dance at some point. I've been out at work, and so I have a lot of time on my own in the bush, where my coworkers are like far away, and I'll just blast music and just dance, like just fully express myself. It's something that I need more in my life, more play. So yeah, that was very profound. And then after the dancing kind of calmed down, maybe a couple hours, and we had all now kind of bonded a little bit. I hadn't really talked much with other people. I felt speaking was hard. Like, I don't know, but like connecting more with them anyways. Sometimes we were just sitting outside and maybe talking a little bit, or just being in this experience together rather than individually like we were before. And at one point, this girl had so there was 5 guys and 2 girls in the ceremony. And this one girl I felt this kind of attraction to before the ceremony started. Like, I remember specifically on the hape stuff, when I was in the fetal position, she was like across from me, and I couldn't do anything else, but I was looking in her direction, and I just felt like this sort of connection. And anyways, so the dancing kind of died down, and she was just cuddling up, looked super cozy, and I was like, oh, you look very cozy. And she's like, yeah, I am, and you should join. And I don't even know if I said anything, but then I went and grabbed my blanket and joined, and yeah, we just had this really really profound connection, like we just had this total heart-opening experience, and then we started cuddling, and so like it was just like this very, very deep connection, and yeah, we basically cuddled for like 4 hours and played, like kind of teased each other. It was another like more play, like this is exactly what I needed kind of moment. Because yeah, we for like 4 hours, because it must have started around 2:30ish, and at this point everyone's kind of back into their relaxed mode, kind of processing what happened. Most people are kind of coming down, so we're just playing very relaxed music. The guides conveniently put on kind of romantic jazz music, which was pretty perfect for me and this girl. And yeah, then it all ended. It was just, that was pretty much how the ceremony ended. We had a nice breakfast, because most of us hadn't ate in a long time, and so we had nice fruit. I was like feeding this girl that I had just met, hardly spoke a word to her. I'm like feeding her fruit. It was just a wild magical journey, like truly a magical night. Yeah, and unfortunately later, we ended up planning a date, but then that fell through, and then I went to work and talked to this girl, and she ultimately wasn't looking for anything. So that was just San Pedro dealing me another lesson of acceptance and non-attachment. Yeah, still kind of processing that one, and sort of how I feel I'm approaching potential relationships and things like that. So there's still a lot to learn there, that's for sure. Maybe it's a never-ending learning curve, but for the most part, I've been able to really accept that for what it was, which was like a beautiful momentary play, and it doesn't have to be more than that. Yeah. So that's it. That's my journey. If you actually watched or listened to this entire thing, I really, really appreciate it. I hope it was entertaining and potentially inspiring you to explore this particular psychedelic experience. I think mescaline is really powerful. Something interesting. It's not as, I would say, as scary as psilocybin can be. And I mean, obviously not. Sometimes you can have a completely positive psilocybin experience, but it's very overwhelming. Whereas this one, I felt I had my wits about me throughout the whole thing. I felt my imagination was like psychedelic, like my thought patterns were totally abstract, and like my creativity and imagination was like increased thousandfold. But I didn't have like these overwhelming bodily sensations, sounds, sights that you experience on magic mushrooms. So I think it's much more approachable for many people. It is a very long experience, so that you have to keep in mind. But it's, yeah, I think it's a lot easier for people to handle early on. And yeah, it's something that I will most likely try again, not for a while, I'm sure. I do plan on trying a mushroom trip fairly soon-ish. We'll see. I haven't really done so I've only done it about 7 times, and one of those times I did a very large dose, like 4 to 5 grams, and it was tough. It was really tough. But I learned a lot from it. I kind of really learned to just make distinctions between, resistance and surrendering. Like, I truly realized that the only way to get out of your suffering is to surrender to whatever's happening. So I learned a lot from it. But I'd like to give it another go and perhaps learn some important lessons there, because the journey of growth is never over. There's always things one needs to work on. But ultimately, this experience on mescaline, it was really magical. I feel like I've turned a new leaf over. And ultimately, these things are never going to be useful if you don't actually try to integrate what you learned. And so I'm really, making an effort to play more, to just play, to dance, to do things with my body, to sing in the car or in the shower, to just play more, do cartwheels, build sandcastles, all of those things I've done this week, or this last couple of weeks. So anyways, I keep dragging this on, so I'm gonna sign out here. Thanks again for listening or watching. Sorry for the video quality. The sun has now set completely, so it's probably pretty dark, and I've been trying to change the exposure. Anyways, thank you all. I love you all. And if there's one thing that I would hope people take away from this, is more play. Just play more, because we all need a little bit more play. That's it. All right. Thank you. Ciao.